Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jay Meszar. I'm a solution consultant here at IMAGINiT, and joining me today is going to be Jeff Bowers. You'll hear from Jeff in just a little bit. I would like to start off just simply by introducing myself and telling you a little bit about myself and who I am and all that sort of stuff. And I've been with IMAGINiT, I've been in the AEC space now about 30 years. Started with IMAGINiT 17 years ago. I can't believe I'm saying that. Civil 3D certified professional, and I've been working on our reality capture team for about 11 years. Before I hand this over to Jeff, I'm going to just point this out. When we flip this slide, it's going to look very, very similar because Jeff and I started pretty much on the same day. So, Jeff, go ahead.
I think we did start on the same day. Hello, I am Jeff. I've been with IMAGINiT for 17 years as well. Been in the industry about 30. Background is process, piping, MEP design, Revit certified professional. I've actually been on the reality capture side a little longer, 14 years. Don't know it all, don't want to know it all. You guys feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat and we'll be addressing those as those come across. With that said, we'll dive right into this. Turn it back to Jay.
All right, so let's talk about a little bit. What we're going to talk about today is the BLK ARC. I'm sure if you've followed Leica through their different HDS scanners, you've probably heard the term BLK many, many times. The BLK 360, the BLK to go, so on and so forth. But specifically today, we're going to talk about the BLK ARC, its overview, a little bit about the specifications. It's going to be different than some of the other scanners that you may have heard of before. So yeah, definitely pay attention to those specifications. Hopefully they'll meet your needs. We'll compare it to similar things that Leica has on the market. Again, this is the BLK ARC. How's it compare to a BLK to go or the BLK to go and the NavViz device? I'm sure, again, if you've been following scanning, everybody's probably heard of NavViz out there. It's a competitor to Leica. We'll take a look at how they all compare to each other and give you a little bit more information on that. And then we're going to take a look at not just the scanner, but the accessories that go with the BLK ARC. There are a variety of accessories that you can use to scan smaller projects, bigger projects, or what have you. All right, let's go and give a little bit of an overview of the BLK ARC. All right, so this is an autonomous laser scanner where we use it with, again, a couple of different accessories to capture data in some dynamic environments. A lot of people have seen the 3D data acquisition in dangerous environments. You might have seen, some people have seen people walk around with it on a scan and go backpack, right? That backpack is, I'm just speaking from personal experience, is a fantastic device. And then, of course, the super cool stuff where we see the Boston Dynamics Spot. If you're not familiar with that device is looks like a dog, and we can mount the scanner on top of that. It is not sold with the scanner. It's a whole separate purchase, but it allows us to enable smooth mobile scanning workflow, right? So we're on the move with this scanner. We're not typically standing still, although we can with the ARC if we'd like. All right. It can be used in a variety of different environments, whether it's construction, industrial inspection, hazardous sites. And if you decide to use it on something like the Spot, there is an intuitive remote operation where we can plan a map and then have the device follow that map itself. All right. Jeff, did you have something there?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to unmute and couldn't unmute. So what we want to focus on today is there's a lot of advantages to this BLK ARC. From a manufacturing world, one of the things that we want to point out to you is all the variety of options that this unit has. Jay mentioned a backpack. Jay mentioned the spot. We at IMAGINiT are not going to focus on the spot per se, but what we want to do is focus on how I can use this in the manufacturing world with a minimum upfront startup cost. And we know startup cost and getting into laser scanner, a lot of people go, oh, it's too expensive. And what we want to be able to do is by using this backpack, by using the ARC, we're able to get into, this type of laser scanning for a very nominal fee, to be honest. This is going to eliminate a lot of field work. This is going to eliminate a lot of time out in the field, because now I'm capturing that data so much quicker, so much more accurate, less manpower, which is equating to the less time we spend in the field, the more money, the time we save is the money we make. So as we go through this, I'm going to be jumping in and just giving different scenarios on how this is really going to fit in the manufacturing world.
Awesome. So I have a few, excuse me. I have a few specifications up on the screen now, and I'm not going to read through each one of them, but I do want to just focus on a couple. Primarily the weight of this unit. It's 1.5 pounds by itself. If we choose to use the automatic backpack, which I'll get into what the automatic backpack is in a little bit, we add another 10 pounds. So just under 12 pounds, we can carry this thing around and be able to collect data on the move, walking at a slow pace. Another one of the things I'd like to mention here is the accuracy indoors. We're at about 10 millimeters. That's a pretty good accuracy for being on the move and walking through a facility, being able to collect data as you move. Communication is USB 3.0, which is pretty standard on a lot of devices these days, and wireless, which allows us to connect to an iPhone and an iPad, depending on which one you want to use, and being able to collect 24 hours of scanning data, or that's compressed data, or 6 hours of uncompressed data, right? So again, pretty impressive specifications for the BLK ARC. All right. As we look through and we kind of look side by side at the ARC versus the To-Go, I'm not going to read these, line for line here, but I just want to point out a couple of things. And Jeff, feel free to jump in. Again, with the ARC, so one of the ways we collect data is either through the robotic spot or on a backpack, or a variety of other carriers, by the way. Doesn't have to be just those two. And moving with the BLK To-Go is going to be a little bit different. If you haven't seen the BLK To-Go before, it is a handheld device allowing us to just walk with our arm out in front of us and walk about an 8-minute walk and finish our scan data, right? Now, if we think about that for a moment, putting the BLK To-Go in our arm and walking 8 minutes doesn't sound like a lot. But if you have a very large space, well, I'll tell you, your shoulders get pretty tired, even holding a small device like the BLK To-Go. If you've got that really big space, having that thing on your backpack or having it on a cart. The BLK ARC makes it really nice to do those very, very large spaces.
Yeah, to jump in here, I want to add a couple things to that. Okay, Jay is we have used that BLK to go. We love the unit. I'm not the strongest person in the world, but after 8 minutes, it's a lot. But let's take it even a step further, because if I'm in a manufacturing scenario, whether I'm in a facility, I've got to go up, some stairs to a mezzanine. With the BLK to go, that is a handheld scanner. I'm holding a phone or some type of mobile device so that I can see what I'm doing. I am not able to have 3 points of contact. 3 points of contact is very, very important in most all manufacturing scenarios. If we look at the BLK ARC, I've got this on a backpack. I may still have my mobile device in one hand, but now I have a free hand. I'm maintaining 3 points of contact as I navigate through this facility. I am not the tallest of folks. Anybody who's ever met me knows I'm short. It is what it is. Looking at the BLK ARC, if this thing is fully extended up, it's about 83 inches to about the center of the optic on the scanner. So I'm getting a nice, clean view of this area as I walk. As I come up to various things, I can raise and lower it depending on what I need to do. I'm doing all of that while maintaining those 3 points of contact. So that's another very important thing to remember about this, is I do get to maintain that. Overall, data pretty close to being about the same from one scanner to the other. But it comes into, like the title of this conference, safety. Safety is very, very, very important in that manufacturing world. I'm not walking through an elementary school so I can create an architectural floor plan. I'm walking through this manufacturing space so that I can gather the information of the architectural, but then I also am gathering the equipment location. I'm gathering, what that equipment kind of looks like, so that when I go to start laying out my design, I have a nice scan of that data, and I did it all while maintaining 3 points of contact, maintaining that safety.
You ready for the next one, Jeff?
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. So just take a moment here and take a look at this graph or chart and compare the ARC to the to-go to the NavViz device, right? And you're going to see that there are some areas where the ARC is better. There's going to be some areas where the to-go is slightly better. And there's going to be some areas where the NavViz device looks to be a little bit better, right? But what I want to do is really kind of focus on where does the ARC fit, or where does the to-go fit with all three of these, right? And the BLK ARC, if we kind of come down to the weight of this thing, as I mentioned earlier, we're just over 11 pounds with the backpack, okay? BLK to go, it's 1.7 pounds in your arm, which again, fantastic device. Walking around with it on a very, very large space gets to be a little tiresome. The NavViz device is at 52 pounds. Now, you have to have people that are in the field to be able to carry a device like that. And I'm certainly not here to slam NavViz at all, right? But it's a big device. And to be able to put it on, I mean, it's kind of like an exoskeleton, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like something out of the future for sure. But, that's a lot of weight. And I've dealt with folks in the past that just simply say a lot of our people can't carry it. However, a 12-pound backpack, a little bit easier to carry. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was going to add, just to kind of add a user take on this. A dear friend of mine, him and I were on a call with a client several weeks ago, and my cohort asked an amazing question. Why? You have a Naviz. Why are you looking at transitioning to something like this? And their exact statements were, because it's heavy. Okay, well, what else? It's heavy. No, but why else? I mean, other than weight, what is, it's heavy. They have to take 2 to 3 people on the site with them and have to change out. And again, this is per what this organization was telling us. They take 2 to 3 people on site with them and they trade off using that scanner because of how heavy it is. If you're a taller individual, look, I mean, I would love nothing more than to be about 6'2". That was my dream. I barely make 5'8". So, okay, 5'7". But
I was gonna say you had lifts in your shoes, maybe, but all right.
But being a 6'2" individual, you have to take that device off every time you go through a door because of the height of the unit. The other thing that really stood out to us upon talking to this same client, actually talking to a couple others, and doing an internet search, just trying to understand some of the differences in upon processing. Taking a look at the Leica software, that's all done locally. The software can be a permanent license, it can be a subscription license. You own that license for a year, or you own it for forever, and you process as much data as you want to. There's no limit. But what we're hearing and what we're being told, what we're finding, throughout searches on the internet, et cetera, is you're paying cloud processing for a fee. And if you're doing a tremendous amount of scanning, as you can see at the bottom of this chart, it's not cheap. In fact, it's pretty astronomical. Now, looking at reality, okay, how many people scan 5 million square feet in a year? Well, if I'm a manufacturer and I've got 4 or 5 manufacturing facilities and I've got 4 or 5 additional warehouses, 5 million square feet, that's not a lot at all. I was on site with a client a couple of weeks ago. They had 4 warehouses that were over 5 million square feet that they're in the process of scanning. So if you start looking at not only the cost, the weight of the unit, but also the processing of that data, that can get very, very, very costly, very, very, very quick. I will say that one of the individuals that we met with, my cohort and I, a couple of weeks ago, one of his complaints were, yeah, we ran out of processing time or processing credits, I guess is the word I could use. It took us 2 weeks to get additional credits to our account so that we could finish that project. How many on this call can wait 2 weeks? I can't. How much is that costing you? I can't afford to wait that long and pay that extra money. So, again, we're not here to bash. We're just trying to give you facts. And the weight of the unit, the substantial cost of the unit, the processing starts to make this where the BLK ARC is a really solid solution. And pretty much everything that I want to do with it, you're doing the same thing with a more expensive unit. Jay?
All right, awesome. Let's take a look at some of the accessories that are available with the ARC. So we're going to start with what they refer to as the automatic rigid backpack, right? And this is a very appropriate name for this backpack, because if you take a quick look there, you can see that the backpack is made of a hard plastic, although it is comfortable to wear. And in the gentleman's hand there is a remote control. So this backpack allows us to push a button and raise the scanner up, lower the scanner back down. So as Jeff mentioned a little bit earlier, walking through some of those doors, we don't have to take the backpack off, kind of walk through the door. We can just simply pause at the beginning of the door, lower it down a little bit, walk slowly through the door, raise it back up, and we're on our way again.
Okay, I have to add something here. I'm sitting here kind of giggling. For those of us that have grown up in the 80s and the 90s, we all remember seeing the movie Predator. Not gonna lie. First time I put it on, I'm scanning my office area, and I hit the button, and the scanner extends up. I felt cool. In a nerdy kind of way, I felt kind of cool. I felt like the Predator there for a minute. But then I was humbled by my wife going, that's really not something you should be playing with. It's an expensive scanner. So it is very nice to have that ability to raise and lower it. But let's be honest, you have to be responsible for raising and lowering it. You know, I did it. I was enjoying using the scanner, playing with a button, left it raised up, walked right into the door. I did it.
I have to admit, I almost did it. I remembered at the last second.
But it's nice feature. I can just hold that in my finger and hit a button, it lowers it, I stop it, walk through the door, raise it up, keep on going. You can continue scanning while it raises and lowers. So next one.
So yeah, the next one's just a manual or fixed height rigid backpack. There's no up and down on this. It's just you screw the pole on top, you have it at one height, and you go. And as you can see in the picture there, when you do get to doorways, you're going to want to, at very least, squat down a bit to make it sure you don't smack it off of a roof or a doorway.
Only if you're tall.
Yeah, I'm not overly tall either, so I can't really say. So, what about for those people that are kind of like, well, I'm in between the BLK to go and possibly the BLK ARC. There's a handle that you can use, right? Not quite as convenient as the BLK to go, but does offer a little more, use cases for your scanner, whether you can use all these different accessories. And of course, just simply hold the handle, start walking, and you're going to collect your data.
Basically, it makes it like a BLK to go.
It does, yeah. And then of course, when I look at this picture, I just think like a golf push cart, right? It's kind of similar there, where you can simply push this cart around, walking the scanner. I think the only challenge I see here is making sure you walk at a slower pace and not kind of running through the site to collect good data. Jeff, do you have anything on that one?
I was going to say golf cart, but normally mine has to be four-wheel drive because I'm in the woods all the time.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, I mean, the thing with the cart is there are limitations to being able to use that cart. If you're outside, that's great. You got to be very careful, mindful of your surroundings. Getting it over curbs and things like that, kind of a challenge sometimes. But if you've got to walk a long distance, huge parking lot, things like that, cart's fantastic.
You know, Jeff, I was thinking, I was just in a manufacturing facility not long ago for a very, very large company, and thinking about scanning the whole place. Not that I was, but of course that's what we do when we go to places, right? I was thinking it took us 15 minutes just to walk to lunch. And of course, you have a terrestrial based scanner on a tripod, that's going to take a long time moving that. BLK to go, I was thinking, boy, arm would be tired. And then of course, you see something like this and we'd have flown right through that. So, all right. Last but not least here, there's a telescopic pole where we can go ahead and use it as essentially a terrestrial based scanner on a tripod. Allow it to sit in one place, scan. When it's done, we can pick it up, move it to another place, and scan there. Continue that until we finish our scan data. So it's very versatile when you add all of these accessories.
Somebody asked me the other day, why would you ever use a telescoping pole? Valid. Where would we use it? Well, if you think about it, let's say I've got a multi-story building. That telescoping pole, I can raise it up, do some scans up high, lower it back down, do some scans low. I'm getting better elevation in my scans. If I'm inside of a facility and you've got, some features that you need to gather, instead of getting on a lift, if you know going in that you've got to get those, grab that telescoping pole, raise it up, get those areas up high. I mean, there's quite a few uses for it. So not a lot of people think about that, think outside the box. But if you start to think, man, look at some of your facilities. How do I get some good detail on that equipment and things up high? That would be one way of doing it.
Yeah, I was also thinking just simply walking through a space and then wanting to get a little more detail above ceiling, or even if the ceiling's open, to be able to get just a little higher and behind ductwork or other piping or whatever.
Above ceiling grid.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about operation. Well, if you followed Leica at all, over the past several years, you've probably heard the term Cyclone Field 360. And this app, as you saw previously, works with the Apple iOS or Android devices and allows us to actually see the data as we're collecting it, and also be able to come in and register that data as we go. So before you ever leave a site, it's very important you just check, make sure all your data fits together. When you go ahead and import that data, that data should already be registered. All right. And then what about supplemental data? Sometimes we walk through a space and we have other data that we have to collect. And I always use the example. I see people always walking around with their cell phones and taking pictures, and what could amount to hundreds of pictures. All right. And then I've done it myself, gone back to the office or hotel room or whatever, taken those pictures, dump them onto a folder, and then, a couple days, couple weeks later, decided, let me take a look at some of those pictures. And when I did, kind of grumbling at myself saying, boy, where the heck did I take that picture? And inevitably can't remember. So some of those pictures, not all of them, but some of them, kind of become junk, right? Whereas being able to commit or collect a geotag, as it's known through the Leica software, we can take those pictures or videos, text, voice recordings. If you're using 3D targets, or even if you have an iPad with LiDAR built into the iPad, you can scan data with that as well and include it in all of your scan data. So everything is in one place. When you collect a geotag in the field, you simply get back to the office, you click on that geotag in the point cloud, and we see the pictures or videos, etc., of what was out there. And then, of course, if we want to be able to send that information off to other folks, it's very easy to open it up in a Windows environment, save it out, and send it off to somebody else. I'll pause here. Jeff, do you have anything in here?
I'm good right now.
Are you good? Okay. All right. So then let's talk about data processing. Right. The data from the scanners imported via Wi-Fi or USB cable. Right. Be honest with you, the cable is just definitely the best way to go. It's faster, but hey, you know what? We all lose cables. If you want to use Wi-Fi, you can connect to the scanner directly via Wi-Fi, download that data, and then be able to import it. Right? Now, truth be told, Jeff and I went back and forth about this next bullet point, if done correctly. And I think that's kind of a caveat of anything we do, but if done correctly, the imported data is already registered. So it's done. Okay. And again, we get back to the office, it's registered when it's imported, and we're work on a little bit of cleanup, get the data out, and get it over to whatever software we're trying to look at it in, whether it's CloudWorks for AutoCAD or Revit or Navisworks even. We can get it over there very quickly. And earlier, when we were looking at that NavViz versus BLK ARC chart, Jeff mentioned, having to upload the data to the cloud for NavViz. And of course, some people might be thinking, well, geez, I wish I could do that with my Leica stuff. Well, you can. HXDR or Reality Cloud Studio, we can use that from the field even and upload our data directly to the cloud. Somebody back in the office can start using that data even before you get back. All right? Or again, another option is just Register 360 Plus. This is our tried and true workflow, being able to do it inside our laptop or desktop. And it's very easy to learn and very easy to use. Both Jeff and I teach classes on how to do that. And we find that most people pick it up very quickly. Now, one of the things you'll also find is just getting the data out of software sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge, like getting the right format that you want. Not really a problem, as we can go to Leica's LGSX file, we can go to Autodesk's RCP file, or even a more universal file format like E57, PTS, PTX, things like that, directly from Register 360. Okay. Let's talk about data uses. Once we have the point cloud, that's probably, I think if somebody were to ask me, what's the biggest question you get when it comes to scanners and point clouds and things like that? And I think it's probably, I have a point cloud. Now what the heck do I do with it? And my response is always the same: is what can't you do with it, I guess, right? So we can take that point cloud data, we can utilize it in a simple viewer. So we can hand it to almost anyone and have them walk through a viewer, create some measurements, clippings, presentations, right from Leica's TrueView application, not to be confused with Autodesk's old TrueView application. We can take it into AutoCAD, turn it into 2D or 3D models in AutoCAD. We can take it into Revit, create walls, doors, windows, right? All from this point cloud data. And then, of course, take it into Navisworks and combine it with data from a bunch of other places. Well, sometimes people just want to do some analytics. Cyclone 3DR is a Leica product that's fantastic for analytics. Things like looking at BIM models to compare what's been done on a project, what still needs to be done on a project, and we can compare our existing point cloud data with a BIM model to see what actually has been done. We can look and create meshes from our point cloud data. Right? And there's just with Cyclone 3DR, we could go on for probably hours on what it can do. Jeff, do you want to add anything here? Oh, he might be on mute.
I was on mute. One of the things that I do want to point out is, you know, this scanner, we've often heard, well, you know, like Jay was saying, well, processing the data, getting the data up and going, getting it to a usable format, that's always tough. Ladies and gentlemen, the software has finally started catching up with the ease of use that the scanners are. The software is not as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. Now, with that said, yes, we live in the software, we live in the hardware. Things not come very simple to myself and Jay, but I've worked with enough architects, enough engineers, enough manufacturers to know that this is not something that is overly complicated. With a little bit of training, a little bit of education, you're being set up to be very successful in a very, very, very short amount of time. If you have a need and you're unsure which scanner, or, you know, if scanning even is appropriate for what you need, reach out to us. Let us know. We are here to help you. We want to educate you as much as you can before you make the purchase. That way, you know, you're making the best purchase, you know, the best financial decisions you can make. We've only talked about a couple pieces of software here. There's a lot of software that could potentially be used. Are you going to need every piece of software? No, absolutely not. But let us help you. Let us hear what you have to say on what your thought process is, and from there we can help you develop the best scanner, the best workflow, the best software, get all that put together so that you're starting off on that right path.